'Twas the year 1897 when goth bro Abraham Stoker, or Bram, or Bram, wrote a little gothic horror novel called Dracula. As a recap, in Dracula, a solicitor by the name of Jonathan Harker takes a business trip to visit Count Dracula in his Transylvanian castle. Long story short, and spoiler alert, Dracula's a vampire, and Harker has to get out. So why did a novel from 1897 suddenly re-emerge as a video game on just about every system under the sun in the early 90s? The movie, of course! In 1992, Francis Ford Coppola directed Bram Stoker's Dracula, starring a knockout cast featuring Anthony Hopkins, Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves, and my man, Gary Oldman. The movie was nominated for and won tons of awards, but its lasting critical sentiment has been a resounding meh by most metrics. Regardless, the movie had a significant impact on pop culture and was of course ripe for video gamification. So what's up with Bram Stoker's Dracula on the NES? Bram Stoker's Dracula is frustrating on two fronts. The first one is simply because it is frustrating, and the second frustration is that it could have been pretty solid if it just wasn't so frustrating. Let me explain. The game is broken into scenes that loosely follow Bram Stoker's narrative. Each scene is a level, and each of those levels are broken into day and night. Even though you start in a daytime level, it will eventually turn night during your playthrough of the level, and when that happens, the creeps come out of nowhere. Once you get through the daytime half of the level, you'll transition into a nighttime level, even though it already changed to night during the daytime level you just finished. It's confusing. At the end of the nighttime level, you'll face a boss, which will be a version of Dracula, like Shadow Dracula, Werewolf Dracula, Bat Dracula, and so on. Some levels have mini-bosses of Dracula's ghost bride. It took me a while to figure out that you must dodge and not attack her. If you dodge long enough, you get to move on, and she floats away, so just don't touch her. She's simple at first, but in later levels she multiplies herself, adding to the challenge. Controlling Jonathan Harker feels pretty good overall. The game is a platformer, and Harker's movements feel fluid and responsive. Having a nimble character here is a must, as the sudden surprise enemies that pop out constantly are the game's biggest hindrance, and the reason it's too frustrating for its own good. Again, the controlling of Harker is not an issue, and the level design is decent, but good luck trying to route your way through the levels. Once nighttime hits, you will be accidentally jumping directly into enemies that slowly materialize out of thin air right in your path. It is the worst. The only good news about that is that they appear in the same place every time, so you can begin to anticipate where they are if you die over and over. Harker has an energy bar, so it's not quite a one-hit kill situation, but he doesn't take many hits. You can find extra lives and additional health in the form of hearts along the way. You'll also notice at the bottom that each stage is timed, but I rarely had that become an issue except during some of the boss fights. Each stage has a built-in checkpoint in the form of a lantern that activates when you go by, so if you die, you'll start back there rather than from the beginning of the stage, but there are no saves, or no passwords, or anything like that. The weapons in the game are at least a little varied. You start with a knife that has virtually no range, and there's an axe you can throw that's also not great from a distance. But Harker keeps it real and just starts chucking rocks he finds, which are great, save for the limited ammo. Rocks go all the way across the screen, and you can get a handful of rocks for a triple rock shot that works wonders on bosses. If you have a choice between anything and the triple rock shot, do triple rock shot all day. Enemies are the usual gothic horror cast members, your walking skeletons, zombies, ghosts, bats, big hands, spiders, and more. There are some hidden areas tucked in the walls that lead to some power-ups or shortcuts, and if you find Dr. Van Helsing chilling around and you rescue him, you'll get that sweet triple rock shot automatically when you next face Dracula at the end of the level. This is one of those games that shames you out of a full playthrough if you don't elect to play it on the toughest difficulty. If you play the game on easy, you get to experience just 2 levels. If you pick medium, you see 4. And if you select hard, you get to play through all 7. Yay? I played a bit on each difficulty, and it wasn't obvious to me what changed to make the game harder or easier, especially since enemies sporadically appearing right in your way sucks no matter what. All in all, the game has the right vibes, and at times feels like a fun platformer with good stage design and bosses that aren't too tough. The out-of-thin-air enemies is what really drags this one down for me, but if you're the patient type who doesn't mind practicing levels over and over and learning where all the troubles lie, you might actually enjoy this one. It's not a bad game by any means, just unnecessarily frustrating. The music and sound design are wonderful, the graphics are nice despite Harker's sprite being a little bit simple, and it feels good to control, in the daytime at least. Like I mentioned before, Bram Stoker's Dracula came out on most systems on the market at the time, including the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, Master System, Sega CD, Amiga, and even MS-DOS. But they aren't ports. Almost each console received a different style of the game. The Game Boy version most closely resembles the NES version. The 16-bit versions were the same for the most part. The Sega CD version, of course, fit some full-motion video into the mix and used digital backgrounds. The Amiga version is similar to the Sega CD version visually, but the gameplay is pretty different. The DOS version, though, I did not expect. It is the wildest of all, and plays like Doom in the first-person perspective. Well, that's going to do it for Bram Stoker's Dracula on the NES. As always, keep your pockets full of rocks for self-defense from brooding castle keepers with a lust for blood. And thanks for watching.